When you build out a van and turn it into a house, you're not only building yourself a home, you're also crafting a way of life. And today we're about to meet an exceptionally talented man who not only has built himself a beautiful place to call home, but also a space that facilitates an amazing journey. Hey Floyd, how's it going, man?
Yeah, really nice to meet you.
Really great to meet you. And this is such a cool setup you've got here.
Cheers. Yeah, it's a labour of love. Put a lot of work into it.
Yeah. Can you tell me how it was that you came to be living the van life?
When I started my apprenticeship, I really wanted to knock that on the head and then get on the road. And then I got a dog and I was like, I'm going to be tied to New Zealand now. And then I took a bit longer to do my apprenticeship than first anticipated. It took me like 6 years.
And this is a building apprenticeship?
Yeah, so qualified carpenter. Then bought a van in 2020 and started kitting it out slowly. And hit the road. And it's been pretty awesome ever since. Yeah.
That is one of the really cool things about building, because it's a skill that you can take anywhere in the world, isn't it? So
you have the
van life and building just go hand in hand.
Provided you have the tools, provided you've got the gear, like this is set up for wood turning and living.
And we have actually already seen some of your handiwork on the show before, because you helped to build your sister's tiny house.
Yeah, that was a massive experience with my sister and her partner. Yeah, we had a lot of fun building that. And it was so cool. I've never had the artistic freedom on a build, you know, like when I've worked, I'd done renos, new builds, commercial, all of it, and there's always a plan and it's designed by somebody else. When we were building my sister's tiny, I just said to my sister, like, can I do this? Can I do this? And she would be like, yeah, go for it.
And from there, how did you get into wood turning?
So when I was about 17, 18, I expressed the interest to an old girlfriend of mine, and she bought this old lathe for me and we fixed it up, and I was just turning like randomly at night time, you know, making a bit of dust. And then my old man bought me a chuck, which is the most important tool that a wood turner needs, in my opinion. So I started hitting it really hard after that. And then lockdown happened and started putting my wood turning on an Instagram page. I managed to scrounge up a name, Floyd's Woods, and then make the page, and I just started hitting it every day. Yeah, it was good. I had like 30, 40 pieces made by the end of lockdown, and lots of people keen on buying them from me too, which is cool. But I've never been able to charge for my art. Like, that's the hardest part for me, is like making it amazing, and then I just want to give it to somebody, because I'm like, your appreciation for this means more than a couple of dollars at the end of the day. And
you have turned your work now into this really incredible non-profit project. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, so actually just before lockdown, we had a friend of ours pass, and kind of rocked everyone pretty heavily. And then a couple of years later, another one fell. A lot of my mates, you know, I've been an ear for a lot of them to talk to, which I'm happy that I can be that comfortable person that they feel like they can open up to. And that's what I want. You know, I want everyone to feel the ability to talk about their emotions, and because things are real, you know, you don't have to hide stuff for a reason. And I know for myself, I have to keep my hands busy, or else that's where my mental health struggles. So wood turning is my calm place. Like, I was super lucky to find that when I'm just chucking chunks out, my brain is completely focused on that piece, you know, like what is going to happen next, you know, to this, like how that knot's going to work with the piece I'm turning. So with me needing to keep my hands busy, decided like wood turning would be coming with me on this journey. My original plan was just to make one person's day, you know, like turn a piece, bag it up, leave it like on a bushwalk or something for one person to find, and just be like, yo, whoa, what did I find? Like, that'd make my day if I'd found this art drop that just said, yo, this is for you, have a wicked time. Yeah. I hope your day improves tenfold, tell a friend. And then like voicing this, like having a couple corridors with mates over that idea, it kind of was like, bro, you could take this a step further and ask these people to donate to Gumboot Friday for what they think the piece is worth or what they can afford. Because I would do that in a heartbeat, you know. I'd be like, oh, yo, here's $20 for Gumboot Friday. I've found this piece. And like, I have 3 requests for people once they find a piece of my art out in the wild, is to donate what you think it's worth or can afford to Gumboot Friday, check in on a friend, and just let me know you found it. That's part of it for me too, you know. It's like,
of course,
hearing back, and you get such positivity. Like, the 3rd piece I dropped was the loveliest message I think I've received in ages. This 7-year-old girl found it, and her mum messaged me on my Floyd's Woods Facebook page and just sent this essay of a text like how her daughter hasn't actually been feeling too good lately, and just picked her up.
And outside of New Zealand, I think a lot of people wouldn't have heard of Gumboot Friday. Can you talk to me about what that is?
So Gumboot Friday is a youth mental health program. For me, I think it's the most important mental health charity because my mates that passed were that age. I think their bracket is 25 and younger.
Yeah.
And when I passed that bracket, I actually started to see a bit of clarity in my own thoughts and have my own processes. Whereas before that, I was actually not doing as well as I am now.
Yeah. I love that you are using your skills to really just put smiles on people's faces. I mean, that's exactly what every artist wants to do. And I love as well that you really are taking this mission to further mental health, especially because, you know, growing up in New Zealand, we've all been affected. We've all lost friends to depression and mental illness. When I've made it to the same age as friends who have taken their own life, there was that moment of reflection where it's like, wow, like this is as far as they got. And it's like, it's a hard thing to move past, isn't it? So I love that you have that reflection, then also sort of knowing how, you know, you can feel one way at a particular time, but it doesn't stay the same.
Yeah.
Everything changes.
I just try and wreak positivity all day, every day, you know, makes people smile.
Yeah.
And if my wood turning can do that too, you know, that is more than a couple of bucks in my wallet, you know, like
Yeah.
I just want to do is to get people out of that mindset, out of that space so that they can have the luxuries of life that we've been gifted already, you know. Like,
yeah. When it comes to being an artist, I think one of the struggles for a lot of people is financing life and how to make life work. And I love that by downsizing into this van, you've been able to create such a perfect situation for yourself where you can live comfortably, where you can travel, where you can follow your passions and also afford life.
and that's what I'm kind of excited for. Like once I finish this section of all my charity pieces, you know, I want Floyd's Woods to be an artist that people want pieces from, and then to be sitting there with piece number 4 that Floyd's hidden would just be so cool. Like I scored this for free, man, you know?
And tell me about the van.
So this is a 1998 Ford Transit, born the same year as me.
Nice. Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. I think I picked it up for $8.5 during one of the Auckland only lockdowns, and these people couldn't actually drive it out of Auckland. So I was lucky enough to pick it up for relatively cheap, stripped it all, ripped the carpets out, and then I had specification, no plywood, no framing timber. I don't want to see any pine, pretty much.
Awesome.
And that kind of set me on the back burner a little bit, because I was like, now I need to source all of these native timbers and everything, which I'm lucky enough to have a lot of it because of working in renovations for so long.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, so I picked it up for cheap, and then I spent about 1.5 years building it. Did a lot of drawing and designing, and then I think that's where all my burner work started to flow into this place, because I couldn't really walk wood from the saw to back to the van, so I kind of just sat there with my poker machine and just burnt drawings into a lot of things, which is really therapeutic.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to see inside the van. Can we take a look?
Yeah, definitely. Come have a tour.
All right. This is so cool. Van on the outside, beautiful timber home on the inside.
Yeah, it's definitely a gem on the inside and then a little bit rough on the exterior, but I kind of like that about it, you know, it's like a sleeper. It's a hidden gem. Yeah.
It really is. It's such a great way of talking about it. From the moment that you step in here, these carvings just jump out at you. They are exceptional.
Yeah, I was actually really lucky to receive those as a gift. I did an art swap with one of my really good friends, Frankie. I turned her a gear shifter and she made me these 2 just amazing centerpieces for the ceiling. And then I wanted to do them justice, so I tried to do a spiral effect framing around, which was a nightmare. There was times when I was just bent neck, you know, sitting there like, I could just put a bit of plywood up and paint it a cool color or something, but it felt really special to receive them from her, and I was very lucky.
And the use of all of the native timbers in here really just jumps out at you.
Yeah, I had a couple of specifications. I really wanted redwood as my kitchen bench top, because we've got a family batch in Tarawera, and there's, you know, the redwoods around that forest, so they've always kind of been a tree that I really have found myself grounded to, you know, something I can really appreciate. And so I actually drove about 3 hours south to pick up this beautiful slab of redwood, and I felt like I did it justice when I cleaned it up and polyurethaned it, and like, what's better than a slab kitchen bench top? I mean, in a van, it's a bit ridiculous as a 50mm slab on your bench, but we're not going anywhere fast.
Great way of putting it. And I mean, really, this is not about the experience of being on the road, eh? It's really about where you're parked up and getting to enjoy it more as a home, eh?
Yeah, definitely.
And can you talk to me about the design of the van?
So the design came sort of on the fly. I had a couple of ideas. I knew I didn't want a bench seat in the front because a lot of my mates that have vans, they have to go outside their vehicle to get in, and I kind of wanted that hallway so I could just jump in the passenger, roll out sort of thing. And then I knew I wanted a single with the option to turn into a double, but I really wasn't a fan of all of the super insane folding out beds that have so many steps to make a bed. So I put a lot of design into making my bed. I bought so many things that I didn't actually even use, to the point where it's on a pulley system, so I can just pull a handle and the bed turns into a double, and then pull it the other way and it goes back to a single.
Awesome.
I wanted sort of functional kitchen, knew I wanted a sink, so kind of smashed that together just as an idea. And then my mate Scully came round and we just framed up this wall through here. And that was sort of the design process, you know. My first time putting a bit of framing up parallel, I was like, I grabbed my level out, and I put it in level, and I was like, whoa, that's on the purse to my eyes, you know, because the van was on the angle.
Of course, know? And then, you're parked on a hill.
Yeah, and then that just blew my brain apart. I kind of put the first bit of framing in and then stood back and gave it the hydrometer, and she's right as rain after that.
There you go.
Yeah, so a lot of this is all just eyeballed, but I feel like I got an all right eyeball.
It definitely looks right to me. Talking about the design of the van, how much room did you have to play with? What size is it?
So it's 3.7 by 1.8 wide, but then that 1.8 is just the floor space, and then it definitely gets smaller as, you know, being a vehicle.
Yeah. And it looks like you've managed to get heaps of storage into the van as well, because it's not a huge van, is it?
No, they aren't massive, and I was super worried with putting all of this framing on the walls. I was like, oh, I'm losing a 70mm cavity, you know.
Yeah.
Like, but I obviously needed to fill that with insulation. Yeah, I've definitely tried to maximize as much of that like space as I could. I think it's come together in the end. I have too much storage in terms of like there's cupboards that don't have things in them.
And how did you insulate the van?
So I put sound deadening in the ceiling. As much as I like that rain patter noise, it can get pretty loud at night. I was quite grateful to do that. And then I just had a whole lot of bats left over from jobs. Being a builder, and I shoved them in all the gaps. It's warm enough, but at the end of the day, it is a 98 Ford Transit. It gets a little bit of a breeze going at times, but at the end of the day, you just chuck another blanket on and cuddle your dog. So
yeah. What do you do for electrics and plumbing in the van?
So I actually wired up this whole thing myself. Nearly a year and a half of running a fridge full time, purely off solar, which blew my mind. So the whole thing, all the lights, fridge, everything, charger points are all run off one solar panel and a 110 amp hour deep cycle battery. Yeah, so and then plumbing is, I've got my clean water is actually externally loaded because I didn't like the idea of having to pull a 40 litre container out and filling it up and then putting it back in and re-chucking all the hoses on. So just like the bed, you know, I wanted everything just to be as simple as possible. So I've got an external waste water container that loads underneath the van, and then I've just got a tap.
What about toilet and shower?
So I've got 47 litres of water on the roof on some PVC pipes, and they've got inlet and an outlet valve, and then I've got a 2-metre hose with a shower contraption on the back, and that's just cold water. But in the daylight, it heats up quite a bit. You know, it's like lukewarm, and that's pretty much the temperature I run my showers at anyway, so that works super well for me. And then my bathroom is just under the bed here. It's just a pull-out cassette toilet. But, you know, I don't really use that too often. With all of the amazing facilities that are out in public, it's there to be self-contained, and like if I ever need to use it, I can.
Talk to me about cooking in the van.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because you can't stand up. So I'm on my knees in the kitchen prepping stuff, and then my cooker slides out from underneath my bed, and I have the availability to cook from inside or standing up outside where you are now, which works pretty well standing up outside. Cooking inside is a little bit more of a task because this isn't a very big lounge area or kitchen area. I eat pretty simple food, do a lot of pastas, and I eat a lot of fish because I catch a lot of fish. Well, not a lot of fish, I'm car white king, but
traveling, fishing, cooking up fresh fish in your van. Life does not get much better than that.
It's perfect, it's so good.
And foraging and catching your own food would help to keep your travel expenses down as well.
Yeah, well that's why I also thoroughly enjoy fishing, but it does help a lot when you don't have to buy a lot of meat.
Tell me about life on the road. Like, what's it really like to live out of the van? Because, I mean, it's a lifestyle which I think is idealized by so many people. What is your reality of living in a van like?
The idea of it is a lot more appealing than actually doing it. You know, you have the most awesome backyard to play around in. Your scenery is constantly changing from where you wake up. Like, it's a busy lifestyle. You meet so many amazing people, but it's a small place. And as soon as you don't put one thing away properly, you end up with a completely trashed van. Like, it can get a bit messy and dirty, but at the end of the day, its pros outweigh the cons like tenfold. You know, I've got zero expenses. I've made so many friends, and I've only really been full-time on the road for 6 months. So I'm super excited to see even what the South Island is going to provide for me, you know.
And can we talk about the cost that was involved in building out the van? You said you bought the van itself for $8,500.
Yep.
What came next?
In terms of all the materials, I think I spent probably $1,000 all up on all of the things you can see, and like lino and lights and all that stuff.
Wow.
And the main expense was my power. So
Sure.
I think it was $2,500 for all my solar and all of that setup. So I built the van for probably under $13,000.
Wow. And so that's the cost that goes into building out the van. Talk to me about living costs and expenses while on the road.
I budget $300 a week. And with that budget, it's got my deadline of how long I can actually do this. But I'm also picking up jobs here and there. You know, I'd love to work as a lifty on the mountain during winter at some point.
Yeah.
I can definitely live pretty cheap. I'm happy to eat rice for a week if that's, and fish.
Yeah. So through your carpentry work, you've now saved up enough money to live on the road for 2 years, which is seriously cool. And it sounds like you've got a huge adventure ahead of you now. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So in April, I will have finished all my ties to being home for a while. I've got to go up north and look after my uncle's farm, and then from April I'll be heading down the west coast until I hit Wellington, and then jumping on the Inter-Islander and continuing that west coast till I hit Bluff. My goal is to drop one piece a week for people to find while I'm traveling, and it gives me the task because I want to have 50 done by the end of the year. You've got 2 wood turn on the road. I need to have power, so I need to pay for a campsite 1 day a week, which is kind of good because it means you can park. Your brain's kind of turned off because you're not in public at night, you know.
Yeah. So the solar's not enough to power the lathe.
Nah, the solar can't run the lathe because there's a big draw on that. And if I was going to run it, I could run it for an hour and a half, but then I wouldn't have power for the rest of my living needs.
Yeah, fair enough. This is just such an incredible home that you've created for yourself. It's filled with your art. It's sort of surrounding and encompassing your passion. Can you talk to me about what this space means to you?
For me to have my own space is a really important, big section of my life. Like when I was here in Pukekohe full time, I built a shed for myself. It was my kind of area, and that just reeks of Floyd's Woods in there. And then when moving out to create this space for myself and for it to be relocatable is a super important thing for me to have my own zone, my area. People can see it from afar and be like, they're going to already get a sense of who I am as soon as they find out that I built this from scratch. You know, like this is a timber version of me. It's what my brain computes on a daily basis as, you know, this. So for me to have that space to show and share and with people, I think that's an awesome part of breathing, you know? Yeah.
Well, Floyd, this is just such an amazing place you've created here. It is filled with art and the promise of adventure. And beyond that, I love that this is a home which is helping to facilitate this beautiful mission that you are on to well, make people smile. I think that is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing it with me.
No worries, it's been an absolute pleasure. Cheers.
Floyd's van is beautifully built. There is so much love, craftsmanship, and attention to detail that has been poured into this incredible place that he calls home. But beyond that though, I am just so in love with his mission. Floyd is out there putting his art and putting his love into the world with a mission of putting a smile on people's faces, and that really is just the most incredible thing.